40 for Rateable Crest Titans.
Throwback to last time out in the Britpart All-Wheel Drive Safari Championship in association with Par Homes. It would be Andy DiGiulio on top once again, putting in some great times to make it 3 wins from 3 for the ominous as we approach the midpoint in the season. Can he be caught? Round 4 of the championship heads to Minehead for the traditional pre-summer event, as well as the now traditional soapbox race, with a number of the younger crews taking their turn behind the less powerful wheels this evening before the main event. The course this weekend, sponsored by Buzz Sweets, is a long-standing venue in the calendar, and a popular one at that. Recent felling in some areas has opened up the track, but it still remains tricky in the narrow wooded area. And as many people have found out in the past, the trees, well, they don't move if you hit them. Let's head out into a bit of a change around on this course then for the first runs of the day, and it would be the lead for Andy DiGiulio and Paul Foley. Paul back in the seat after his Mediterranean cruise, very nice. He's brought the sunshine back with him, equally nice, but of course, that means dust, not so nice. Cy Badge and Matt Hancock make a great start to the event to end the first runs with second place overall. The times, of course, good enough to lead the Class 7 as well at this stage. Douglas Devenold Bat wasn't quite in the second place. He finished round 3 in, not yet anyway. He would, of course, be trying to move up the leaderboard as the day went on, but for now, it will be third overall, only 5 seconds back from second place. Jason and Deb Worgan make a great start to the event with 4th place. There was a good Class 5 battle going on at the moment, and they were right in the thick of it with 2nd in the class. And 3rd in that class would be Max Cook, 22 seconds back at this stage and lying in 5th place overall, which was a great start to the event. Lee Potter and Mike Lang were back up to full power at this round after a blown intercooler hose was discovered after the previous round, and the pace was showing as well. The lead in Class 6 with 6th overall. 7th at this stage would be Paddy Barker, the popular Class 5 being fought out throughout the top 10, with Barker lying 4th in that class for now in his 7th place overall. This was only the 2nd time out in the new car for Kieran Jones and Eloise Donovan. They'd got some good seat time at the previous round, but now it would be about seeing what the car, and of course themselves, were capable of. And for now, it will be 8th place, a pretty good start on that leaderboard. For Andy Skelly, it will be 9th place overall, enough to lie 2nd place in Class 9 as well. The times consistent throughout the morning, but not quite enough to move up the overall times just yet. And rounding out the top 10 overall would be this man, Leighton Dodds. Luke Dodds alongside, they have a bit of a hold-up on run 3 when they catch a slower car later into the course, but it didn't slow them down too much as far as the overall times were concerned. 2nd in Class 6 as well for the pair. There'd be frustration for Del Wheeler and Ross Williams. Retirement early on. This was actually the first time out for Ross, but he's bought a car for himself at the next round. Sadly, this time around, the gearbox in this car would give up on run 2, and their day, well, it ended there. We'd also lose Nick Collins and Alison Brooke in quite spectacular fashion. Lucky not to roll with this big jump, but they do end up breaking the half shaft and would have to retire just halfway through the first run. Ed Smith and Beth Heaps would have problems before the day even started. A running issue having to be traced the day before the event. It would end up being a fuel regulator, and the pair do get things sorted for a nice clean run on the event itself, lying 1st in Class 3, 11th overall for now. Scott Benwell and Paige Benwell Davies would be happy with their start meanwhile. 12th place on the overall leaderboard, 3rd in Class 6 for the pair. Enjoying the course and putting in some times that they'd end up pretty happy with at this stage. Dave and Lindsay Bakewell had a bit of a last-minute preparation job to get finished before the event this weekend. A steering issue needing to be sorted before they travel to Minehead. These things always crop up at last minute, don't they? But they arrive with everything working as it should after putting a hard shift in, ending the morning 13th place overall, third in Class 9. Perhaps it was worth all that effort after all. Andrew Mitchell was putting in some consistent times to lie second in Class 7 at this stage in the event, as well as 14th overall. And Steve Smith wasn't exactly as fast as we'd normally expect out of the blocks. A few minutes off the pace, in fact, on the first run of the day, but he was still going. We'll find out what the problem was later on if we can. He ends the morning's first 3 runs in 15th overall, and no doubt slightly perplexed. Things not quite going to plan for Mike and Amy Sheraton. They caught a car in run 3, but would puncture their own wheel trying to get past it. Thankfully for them, minimal time lost as they hold on to third in Class 7. And Jonathan Harford and Daniel Drummond were enjoying the course. Despite the car being quite big, it was still suiting the mix of fast open sections and tight, twisty woodland. They end the morning with a lead in Class 2 from 17th overall. Jonathan Damrell and Nick Blundell had started the day off with the intention of going easy. The driver having had some stitches in his finger from an accident preparing the car the previous week. However, things were going well, and of course that starts to get the competitive juices flowing a little more inside the car. As a result, they end the morning 4th in class, 18th overall, and no doubt in a little bit of pain. Now, it's not often that we end up with more than one Class 3 car, so let's celebrate that. This weekend, we had 2 of them. Nicky Hall will be the second of those cars in the class, 19th overall. Paul and Nathan Kite, meanwhile, would suffer with a broken shock absorber on run 3. Didn't lose them too much time, but it wasn't ideal, obviously. They end the morning 20th place overall. And we lose the ever-popular Margaret and Mike Bakewell, the steering breaking halfway through the first run, sending them straight off on a corner. Thankfully, they avoided anything solid. Refer to my earlier comment about trees. Unfortunately, though, it would be their first retirement in 3 years. Still a pretty good record, guys. Now, this would be the first time out for Jamie Reeder with Matt Hancock alongside, having done stage rallying in the past. This was a whole new experience, but things were going well. They were enjoying it. For Alex Russell, it would be 22nd place overall, 5th in the class for now. And going off results from previous rounds, it would be no surprise to hear that Daniel and Alan Wilcox bent the suspension on the Freelander. Thankfully for them, it wasn't a surprise to them. They now come equipped with spares ready for when it happens. They end the morning with the lead in Class 1, 23rd overall. That Boy Scout motto coming in handy. This weekend will be the first time out we'd see Andy Whittle and Jess Barnard this season, and they were enjoying themselves on the tight and twisty course here in Minehead. They lie second in Class 2 as well. Just behind them in the class will be Tim Tennant. However, run 3 will be the last we'd see of him. He'd retire soon after this. In Class 1, it will be Thomas Parker taking up second place, lying in 26th on the overall leaderboard as well, the times improving run by run. And a little way behind in 27th overall will be Barry Dodd, 6th place in Class 6 for him as well. Greg Finch making his first outing of the season, a newly rebuilt car and engine as well. However, it would be a hydraulic failure with the clutch that would see an end to the event on run 4. Brian and Mitchell Birch were the first ones to roll the car here at Minehead this weekend, putting that car on its roof on run 3. They do get it back on the wheels and set about getting it sorted again for the afternoon runs. So 3 of the 8 runs complete here in Minehead. The results are shaping up a little bit like this. On to the middle part of the day, and there'd be no change at the top of our leaderboard. Andy DiGiulio and Paul Foley displaying that pace that had been so ominous so far this season, continuing to hold on to that position and not having any problems to report either, frustratingly for the crews around them. One of those crews, and having problems of their own, would be Cy Badge and Kieran Fogarty. They dropped down from 2nd to 17th overall. A maximum on run 5 would be what did the damage. But they're pulling off into service with a broken fan and a puncture. So, of course, that means Douglas Devenall back could now move into 2nd place. And if he can keep the pace going, it looks like another 2nd place will be his on the board this weekend. And as is always the case, when we lose someone from the order, it benefits those behind. And for Max Cook, it would now be 3rd place. Also enjoying being on that overall podium with a handful of runs left to go. Let's hope that red mist is kept in check. It wasn't just one crew we lost from the top of the results at this stage. We also say goodbye to Jason and Deb Worgan. They were going so well, but unfortunately rolled close to the end of the course on run 4, meaning the end for their event. So for Lee Potter and Mike Lang, it will be 4th place overall now. A great position for them. They'd be glad having full power in the car now that they'd found the issue from the previous round, if you remember that. They also lead the way still in Class 6. For Paddy Barker, it's 5th place on the overall leaderboard now. And while DiGiulio was a little further up ahead, shall we put it like that, the places from 2nd to 5th were all separated by a minute. Just let that sink in. Anything could happen in the final 3 runs of the event, but would it? Kieran Jones and Eloise Donovan were catching a few cars on the course. That was equally annoying and also a good feeling, of course. They were not used to being able to do that. The feeling in the new car getting better by each run. And there'd be some movement on the overall order for Andy Skelly. With all the change around in the top 10, it would now be 7th place and still going well in the class as well. 2nd in Class 9 at this stage. Things very much going to plan for Ed Smith and Beth Heaps. This was Beth's first time doing a full event in the navigator's seat. And so far you had to say it had been a faultless performance. They lead Class 3. No issues at this stage for Leighton and Luke Dodds. Things still going well for the pair as they end these runs with 2nd in Class 6. And rounding out our top 10 after run 5 here in Minehead will be Dave and Lindsay Bakewell. Seeing how many people were parked up and retired at the side of the course in the early runs had, well, perhaps made the decision for them to just manage that drive and ensure a finish rather than push too hard a little easier. So with 5 runs complete here in Somerset, here's a reminder of how the times are looking at the top of our standings. Into the twilight zone, it's the final part of the event, and we'd lose Mike and Amy Sheraton to start off with. The steering braking on the car, sending them straight into the scenery. Thankfully, only a soft landing once again, no further damage. And they do manage to borrow a steering box from another competitor to get them out of the course and onto the trailer to start that journey home. There's no change in Class 1. We see Thomas Parker ending the event 2nd in the class, rounding out the finishers in 22nd place overall. An achievement in itself with such a long retirement list. 14 crews falling by the wayside this weekend. Brian and Mitchell Birch managed to get their car checked over and fixed up just enough after their morning roll to get out and catch up their runs for a finish. They take 21st place overall and a damage limitation style 5th in class. Daniel and Alan Wilcox have a good clean run this afternoon without any issues, something they'd be very pleased to report. They take the Class 1 victory, 20th place on the leaderboard as well this weekend. Paul and Nathan Kite, meanwhile, are forced to make makeshift repairs to the broken suspension to get themselves back out for the remainder of the day. They were losing probably around a minute a run with continued issues, but at least they were still going, claiming 2nd place in Class 4, 19th on the overall leaderboard. And this weekend had been an enjoyable one for Andy Whittle and Jess Barnard. The car had performed well, doing better in the tighter sections of the course than the open fields, but thankfully, there was more of the stuff they liked anyway. They end the event 2nd in Class 2, 18th overall. One crew that the afternoon hadn't quite gone to plan for, though, was Scott Benwell and Paige Benwell-Davies. They overcooked one of the corners, ending up causing some damage to the steering box and the panhard rod. They ended up stuck in the course as a result, with some of the marshals trying to help straighten that bent rod in order to get them back on their way again, which they did, marshal power. But now finishing the event in 17th place overall, 4th in class. A big thank you to the Orange Army, though. 16th place overall at the end of the day would be Andrew Mitchell and Greg Finches to take. The pair in 3rd place in Class 7 with that result. And it didn't end up a completely trouble-free afternoon for Jamie Reeder and Matt Hancock after a smooth morning, coming across a course blockage and also getting a puncture themselves. But they do make it to the finish, and they take 3rd place in Class 6 as well as 15th on the overall leaderboard. 14th at the end of the event will be Nikki Hall, 2nd place of the two-wheel drive cars in Class 3 as well this weekend. But there's frustration for Paddy Barker. It was a last run maximum, changing his result no longer in the top 10, finishing with 13th place overall, though with 2 of the Class 5 runners taking a podium position. It did mean that he claims a top spot in that position. A puncture on run 4, coupled with a broken drive shaft on the 3rd from last run of the day, had tried its best to stop Jonathan Harford and Daniel Drummond finishing once again, but they do manage to drive through the final runs, scoring their first finish of the season. It's a victory in itself, and they take a Class 2 victory as well with it, as well as 12th place overall. The earlier issues for Cy Badge with Matt Hancock and Kieran Fogarty sharing the co-driving had meant that there'd be no podium finish, or even for that matter, a top 10. They'd have to settle for 11th place overall. However, it's on an event with such high attrition that in itself was a pretty impressive result, working their way back up the results to take that position, and with it, a strong finish. We're on to a pretty hard fought at this weekend, top 10 then, and it will be Jonathan Damerel and Nick Blundell taking that 10th spot. Class 7 winners having a good trouble-free afternoon and coming away with a strong result to show for it. Dave and Lindsay Bakewell, meanwhile, would also have a good clean run through the afternoon. Well, mostly. A puncture on one of the runs was about the worst that was happening to them. Driver error this time, though. They slid wide on a corner and caught that tyre, ending the event 9th place overall with those troubles behind them, 2nd in Class 9. Leighton and Luke Dodds would actually catch a car and get held up. The nature of this course meaning that there are limited places to pull over and let people past. But they'd get past on the open field towards the finish, reaching the end of the event with 8th place overall. It was a trouble-free day for Andy Skelly, meaning that he was able to come away with the Class 9 victory this weekend. He also takes 7th place on that overall leaderboard with those times. For Ed Smith and Beth Heaps, it will be 6th. A stone broke the bleed nipple off the brakes, would you believe, on the final run. But thankfully, they will be close enough to the finish that they could complete the run and take the Class 3 victory as well. 5th place would be the best result that Kieran Jones and Eloise Donovan had ever had. The new car clearly worth the upgrade now that they were getting used to its potential. I'd say not quite there with it yet, so there's more to come. They take the Class 4 victory as well and be hoping that they can be a regular feature in the top of our results, even perhaps fighting for higher places on future rounds. It was a puncture on the 6th run of the day, though, that made for an interesting afternoon, shall we say, for Lee Potter and Mike Lang. It cost them around a minute with the car pushing itself wide on the corners and having to gather it together, but they do manage to do just that, taking a finish and with it a fantastic 4th place overall as well as a Class 6 victory. On to those podium positions then. It's been a long day, hasn't it? It will be 3rd for Max Cook. A great end to the event and a good fight in Class 5 as well as the overall results. 2nd place, once again, going to Douglas Devenall Batt. A good, clean run, some great times on the board. That ensures more important points to add to the championship tally. But when it comes to championship tallies, well, again, it will be Andy DiGiulio and Paul Foley taking the victory and, well, adding maximum points to that, making it 4 from 4 now. A puncture in the afternoon wouldn't slow them down too much, and they'd have enough to play with to keep that lead safe at the end of the day. So we've completed 4 rounds here in the AWDC. Here's a reminder of how those overall results were decided here in Minehead.
It's good fun, isn't it? It's it's come to us again with cars behaved itself. Had a few little niggly things break at the back. We fixed it between laps. Thanks to Paul Foley, my co-driver. He's back in the seat after Dave Hooper at the last one. So it's been good. It's great course. Tough. Didn't want to do any more laps. Tired.
It's tough. It's very tight, narrow. Got rough towards the end, but same for everybody. It was good fun.
There's a lot of trees here. Have you managed to keep away from them?
Absolutely. Hate the things. They tend to jump out. But no, we've stayed away from everything today. So.
Yeah, it's been a great weekend. Coming here a little bit nervous. Everyone's telling me there's trees coming into the track, and then my granddad said to me, "Listen, Max, the trees are only on the outside of the track. They're never in the track." So yeah, we've had a great weekend. We've tried where we've tried. We've got big boys in front of us, but they've got a lot of horsepower. So we've really made up where we can, and we've just kept our foot in, and it's been a great result. Just like to make a big thank you to everyone who's got me here. It's Banker Grandad. He's a big sponsor. GSR Racing. They've absolutely smashed it, helping me out developing the car. Fuchs Lubricants, like I say, lubricating the car, keeping all the products underneath it. But it's been an absolutely great weekend. Really enjoyed myself. So,
with our emphatic championship leader DeGiulio likely to miss the next round of the championship due to being at Goodwood, it leaves a door open, perhaps for someone else to take victory and get some maximum points for that championship battle. But who will it be? You can join us for round 5 of the championship. All the coverage will be here in around a month's time. We'll see you then. In the meantime, stay safe. Thank you for watching.